Hello there and a warm welcome to the final whistle with me, Kenzie Benali.
And me, Steve Forbes.
Well, what a game. The Saints coming from behind twice to draw 3-3 with Spurs. Paul Belveston and Dean Hammond are back with us to discuss that one. Belvers, a big smile on your face. We'll come to you first. Certainly a good one to be in the stands for. What did you make of that Southampton performance?
Absolutely magnificent. Shows such belief. They played some fantastic football at times. You know, spoke before the game about remembering the 3-2 win at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium about a year ago and all the good stuff they showed that day and how they're looking to replicate that again. Well, you know, you look at Antonio Conte's face when it's 3-1. He thinks the game is over. He you know, his teams don't throw away leads, 2-goal leads with only 15 minutes remaining. Heads never dropped for Southampton. A wonderful comeback. They arguably didn't deserve to be 2 goals behind. You know, they let in a couple of sloppy goals, but you know, this gives everyone an enormous lift going into that international break. It's so important going into breaks like that on a high. You know, some miserable people might say 2 points drop. That is a wonderful point from the position they were in. Great performances all over the pitch. The fans here clearly believe they've got the right man in charge as well. They were singing Ruben Sellers' name. I think, yeah, wonderful feeling at the full-time whistle, even though in the league table terms it doesn't change much. But I think great belief, great spirit shown again today.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really looked like a team that wants to fight to stay in the Premier League, Dean. What were your thoughts on that game?
Just echo what Paul says. It was a brilliant game to watch. Loved every minute of it. The atmosphere was fantastic. But the players deserve so much credit because to come back 3-1 down was brilliant. And it was a fantastic game of football. It was brilliant to watch. Some good goals, some good play. In the first half, I thought there was moments. You know, there seems to be a bit of a style back now with the players. They're trying to build up possession, trying to find those gaps, not just trying to get the ball wide and flung it in the box anymore, trying to find those little cute passes. So it was a really good watch, but the game came alive in the second half, and it was fantastic. And Paul's right, the atmosphere here today was brilliant. The fans were fantastic, and the players just have got a bit more belief now. It doesn't change the table, but that momentum and that feeling, you carry that now. You really do, and it will give the players some belief. And another thing I'd like to mention, and I love seeing, was the calm presence of the manager on the sideline. At every moment, whether it was 1-0, 1-2, 2-1, 3-1, just continuing his message to the players. Keep believing, keep trying to do the right things. And they kept trying to do the right things, and it's exciting. I love watching it. 3-3, brilliant. Been even better if they could have won, obviously, but a fantastic game to watch. And yes, just brilliant to be here because it was great to see some memories like this. So look, we're in there fighting, and that's all you can ask.
Now, Belvers, you spent the first half watching from just behind the benches, which seemed to be where most of the action was happening. 4 injuries in total, 2 for each side. The medical staff obviously kept busy. Southampton lost both their centre-backs, and it kind of made for maybe a disjointed first half for the Saints.
Yeah, it really did. Neither side could get going for a long time. You know, first of all, Richarlison going off in tears. Didn't really see what happened to him, to be honest. But then, you know, for any club to lose both centre-backs in the first half hour, 35 minutes, to only have one centre-back on the bench as well, to then come through it as they did was fantastic. It's always entertaining watching Antonio Conte. There was a moment in the first half, Theo Walcott was causing real problems, as he did all game in fairness, but Ben Davies and Pedro Porro actually swapped sides because presumably someone on the pitch said, Porro, you're better at, you know, keeping Walcott shackled, and Conte started kicking things and screaming at them. He didn't want that. It went back the other way, and you know, Walcott carried on causing problems. But yeah, there was some sloppy play first half. It was stop-start. It was both teams trying to, you know, work each other out and that sort of thing. But you know, the way Southampton reacted, Ainsley Maitland-Niles coming on to play centre-back again. He'd only played there once before. That was that awful Wolves game that was here about a month ago, and that was in a back three. So, you know, he has played in a lot of positions on the pitch for Arsenal over the years, but he's never played centre-back. He's now played twice for Saints and done pretty well, you know, considering. So, yeah, wonderful. The first half, that's not the one to watch on Match of the Day or around the world later, but yeah, they coped very well with, as we said, that stop-start nature of it.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Spurs opened the scoring on the stroke of half-time. Dean, Pedro Porro had all sorts of time to pick his spot. How did that happen?
Well, it's just what Paul's mentioned there, because the two centre halves had gone off the pitch. Salisu had come on, obviously, and Maitland-Niles had come on. It's not a natural centre half, so he's probably overcompensated and gone too far across the pitch, which obviously means Salisu comes across, and then Perraud comes across then, and there's just too much room. It's kind of the right thing to do, but Perraud just needs to pass the player on to Salisu. It's that communication again, just to warn him, and then he doesn't have to. He needs to cover, but not come quite as far across. And he leaves too much space, really. But you know, Tottenham exploited it very, very well. They saw that opening, and it's a good finish. It really is. He goes for power. Difficult for Bazunu to save that. You expect him to go across the goal, but he just smashes it as hard as he can. Really, I don't think there's any quality in it, but he gets good power, and it's a good finish. Not sure Tottenham deserved it at that point. I think a 0-0 at half time would have been a fair result, even though Southampton had a few half chances, had a lot of possession. I think Southampton started the game brilliant in the first couple of minutes, and maybe a little overcritical. I think Shea should score really. He goes with the wrong foot, he goes with his left foot, and actually as the ball's coming across, if he just continues it with his right and just gets a little touch on it, I think he scores. But no, the response in the second half was fantastic from Southampton. But it was just the players being over honest, trying to help each other and trying to cover. But it's just that little bit of experience there, just to pass the player on, hold your position, and then that won't happen.
Well, if Southampton fans were dejected going into the break, they had something to cheer about barely a minute into the second half with a goal from Shea Adams, and it was Romeo Lavia's killer pass that created it.
It really was, and that's something Dean pointed out beforehand, that against a team in the top four, you could see many managers going with the more conservative option and keeping Diallo in there as more of a shield in front of the back four. He went with Lavia, and like Dean said, he gives more opportunities for creativity. He's played some wonderful through balls this season, certainly in sort of more recent weeks, and that's what happened here. He pushed the ball through for Theo Walcott, who left Perisic, who'd come on for Ben Davis, and Clement Longley, both of them in his wake, and then it was a first time cross, and the ball comes over, and Shea gets a lovely touch on it. He hasn't scored many in recent weeks, but you know, blimey, that was an important one. And you know, there'll be a lot of Southampton fans who missed it because they were sort of mumbling into their half-time pints and pies and so on. And they're up against a team that's known for being a second-half team this season. Spurs have sort of lethargically bumbled their way through first 45-minute sessions so far in recent weeks and months, and then come out explosive in the second half. They didn't have that opportunity today because Southampton were right at them. I think it's 45 seconds from kickoff. So. Yeah, wonderful reaction, and you know, it set up an exciting half.
Yes, indeed. Well, we certainly enjoyed the game, didn't we? And it's safe to say that you, the fans, definitely did as well. Lots of love coming in on the socials. We'll start with this comment here from St. Rob on YouTube. He says, what a game. Ben Gallagher, thanks for your comment. Oliver Kirby on Facebook says, what a comeback. Proud of the boys. Big game versus West in 2 weeks up the Saints. Great draw before the international break. Well done, Ruben. Well done, boys, from Mark Pollard. Here's one for you, actually, Belvis, from Richard Hall. He says, thank you for the apology, Belvis. All forgiven. Incredible game today up the Saints.
The jinx is over.
The jinx is officially over. There you go. That's a nice one to leave it with for now. But we should talk about Shea Adams, shouldn't we, Dean? I mean, he scored his first Premier League goal since Liverpool away before the World Cup break, which was obviously great to see. Certainly a positive. We're now hoping that ketchup analogy comes true and the goals start flowing a bit more.
Well, he does score. When Shea scores, he tends to go on a bit of a run and get a few more. But I thought he was great again today. I love watching Shea because he's so committed. You know, he's such a team player. He can score goals. It's a brilliant goal, like Bells has just explained there. The ball from Lavia, the run from Theo Walcott, I thought was outstanding today. His runs in behind was brilliant, so clever. But the pass to Shea, and what Shea does in that moment is he's patient. He could run too early, to be over eager, thinking this is my chance, I can score here. But he's patient. He runs across his defender so they can't touch him, and he just gets that slightest touch and it goes in. So it's all about the movement from him. But he worked his socks off today. His hold-up play was good. He was really, really aggressive. There was one moment in the second half where I think he goes to have a shot, it gets blocked, and he has a 40-50 yard sprint to then make a tackle because Tottenham are on the counter-attack. And that's the player he is. If he can get more goals, he's going to be an even better player. But I'm really pleased for him for getting that goal, and we need more goals. We spoke about that a lot, and Shea can score goals, and it was good to see that type of goal, because we know the goals he scores from the halfway line, from half volleys, from headers, but the tap-ins he doesn't generally get. So it was really good to see that, and the way he celebrated as well, and the way the players celebrated with him. I think he means a lot to the players, and they value him. But he was very, very good today, and it was a brilliant team performance. And he started that comeback in the second half.
In the second half, Harry Kane's header and then Ivan Peric's strike, it seemed to almost suck the positivity out of the stadium at that point, because Southampton hadn't been playing badly at that point.
No, not at all. And they're two sloppy goals. The 2-1, Saints had 11 men behind the ball, and then they didn't do anything particularly special to get the ball onto Harry Kane's head. It was their usual sort of predictable, pass it around a bit, pass it along the side, and then it's a terrific cross from Kulusevski. And the problem comes from the lack of the loss of the two centre backs, because it was Ainsley Maitland-Niles and Kyle Walker-Peters against Harry Kane. He's clever enough to get on the end of a cross like that against the best centre backs in the world, let alone a right back and a makeshift centre back. And then the other goal was another set piece that wasn't cleared. It was a corner. Spurs sort of got a couple of half headers on it. They kept moving it around, and then Romero again, when it made himself a nuisance against Maitland-Niles, the header only is half clear to the edge of the box when Perisic knocks it in. But at that point, the game had been opened up. Saints had been challenging at the other end as well, and whereas the first half was a bit cagier, the second half was more open. And it's one of the things about Ruben Selles, in these first few games, a lot has been made of the defensive side, because they hadn't conceded many goals and they had tightened up a lot, but they hadn't created much. Clearly, he is not a manager who's come in and said, right, we just need clean sheets and that'll be our secret or our key to getting out of this. He wants the team to be attacking, wants the team to be front foot. And that second half, that was, right, they'll have some chances, but we're going to create some chances and cause some problems as well. And you're right that there was a bit of positivity sucked out of the stadium, but not on the pitch. Those players, their heads never dropped for a minute. And again, there were positive, proactive substitutions. Shea Adams had played really well, but on comes Sekou Mara, who's not had a great time. He scored that wonderful goal in the League Cup, but again, these players are really trusted by the manager. They believe in the manager as well, and they came on and they kept continuing, causing more and more problems, and that's how Saints got back in the game.
We said how the players' heads never dropped. 3-1 down. Theo Walcott pops up and gets a goal. That certainly injected a bit of hope into the game for sure. I mean, that was a well-worked goal, Dean.
It was, and it was a brilliant response from the players, and a quick response, which was what was needed. The substitutions made a difference. Credit to them. They came on the pitch, and that is what Paul's saying there. The players believe in the manager. They're not coming on the pitch sulking, thinking I should be playing with 3-1 down. This is rubbish. Coming on, right, I can help change this. I can help the club. I can help my teammates. And it comes from a set piece. It comes from a second phase. Prelsi stands it up at the back post. Mara wins that header, nice and aggressive, and it just falls to Theo Walcott. And again, he just takes his time. He composes himself, and left foot, lovely strike, gets his head over the ball, hits it into the ground, and it's a really, really good finish. And then it's game on, because you're a Tottenham player thinking, we've got this game won. Now they're coming back at us. Now they've got momentum. Now we've got to hold on. So it was brilliant. It was great to watch, and I was actually thinking, don't equalise too soon, because then you've got to defend even more. I'm hoping for a later goal. I'm hoping for a goal, but a later goal, because then they can see the game out, because the effort the Southampton players put into that was fantastic. And the manager, again, I know I keep mentioning, but he changed the formation today. He went for the 4-2-2-2, so he played two up front, and Theo Walcott made a real difference. But in the second half, he tweaked it a little bit, where the two centre forwards were playing in between the wider centre half and the wing back, to stop the wing backs going forward, and it really allowed Southampton to get some momentum up and have more possession and pin Tottenham in. So those little cute changes just shows that the manager's good man management, but a really good coach as well, and the players believed in that. So it couldn't have fallen to a better person in the box than Theo Walcott, and he was fantastic today. I mean, I don't know where he's getting this energy from, but he looks really quick, really strong, lasted the 90 minutes. He was a real threat, so enjoyed watching him play. And the two up front, him and Shea, combined really well today.
We had some drama right at the end, Paul, as well, as the momentum Dean was talking about was rewarded with a penalty. Correct decision for you?
Said before the game, that I felt Saints deserved a bit of luck in fixtures against Spurs, that they hadn't had it over the last few years. And first half I thought, wow, it's gone against them again with the loss of the two centre-backs. It was a soft penalty, but it was a rash, silly challenge. You know, Ainsley Maitland-Niles is in the air. He's round the sort of the blind side, if you like, of Pape Sarr, who then just swings a leg. He probably didn't know Maitland-Niles was there, but at the end of the day, he's just inside his own area. He should know that players are going to be around him. And while there was a question mark, while the VAR check was going on, I was listening to some commentators saying there's no contact there. You know, if there is, it's only very slight. I think he's going to go to the monitor and he'll overturn this. Sarr, perhaps crucially, perhaps not, it shouldn't affect things, but he didn't complain at all. He seemed to accept that it was a penalty. And we've talked about the leadership from the manager and the belief he's instilled. What leadership from James Ward-Prowse? He's missed his last two penalties. He steps up, he's facing his best mate in the game, Fraser Forster. They live next door to each other. They used to travel into training every day. They are still very, very good friends, speak most days. He's up against his best mate and he puts away a penalty like that. Wow. Extraordinary.
Wow, it was extraordinary. We really enjoyed that from the stands, didn't we? We were all on our feet and cheering for that one. And Dean, I think it's fair to say the manner of that comeback does make it feel like more than a draw. What will be going through those players' minds now in that dressing room?
Well, a lot of love for each other, a lot of hugs, and rightly so, but it's a win. It feels like a win because, do you know why it feels like a win, Kenzie? Because of the atmosphere that was created and the fans clapping the players off and the players coming over showing their appreciation. You see it on the pitch, the players showing appreciation for each other, the manager getting involved, and that's what it will be like in the dressing room. There will be a lot of congratulations, and take that. You've got to enjoy those moments, and that's going to give you energy. That's going to give you a desire to feel that again and replicate that, and that comes from good performances, fighting for each other and getting points on the board. And we need to win games, we know that, but a point when you're in a relegation battle is vital, and it's still, we'll keep repeating ourselves, it's still so tight down there. So look, 10 games to go, a little bit of a break now because of the international break, and that was important as well because it gives you that good feeling now. You don't want to go into the national break with a poor performance and a defeat. We've got the opposite of that. The players will be absolutely buzzing. So look, the manager's done great, he's changed things around, there's a real atmosphere now, a good spirit, and the players will be feeling that. And I just love watching that today because they're fighting for each other. They're fighting for this football club and they're fighting to stay in the Premier League, and it was great to watch, it really was.
After that international break, Paul, it is West Ham next. What are your early thoughts ahead of that game?
I was at West Ham last weekend for their game against Villa, and I was also at their previous game against Brighton. They were wretched at Brighton, lost 4-0, and I thought, happy days, here's another team that's in real trouble, a team that could perhaps replace Saints in the bottom three by the end of the season. Against Villa, they were much better at home, and I was a little bit worried that perhaps their home form is going to be enough, they're going to get out of it. I then looked at their fixtures, and at home they've got Saints next, as you said, then I think it's Newcastle, Man United, Arsenal and Liverpool before Leeds right at the death. So they have got a horrible run. They've got the distraction, if you like, of the Conference League as well, and I don't think Saints will go there fearing them in the slightest. They've had success at West Ham in the past. They are playing wonderfully together. You know, there have been times on this show, it's no secret, it's a club channel, so we have to focus on the positives and try and gloss over the negatives. There have been times this season that has been a struggle. It's not a struggle today, even though it's only 1 point, Saints are still bottom of the table. There is so much positivity, there's so much hope and reasons for being optimistic in this survival battle now. And West Ham are no great team by any stretch. They are really struggling at the minute. Saints go there with their togetherness, belief and their great talent in there again as well, and this manager is going to have a lot of his players there to work with over this international break. He's going to come up with a good game plan. They're going to play well. I believe that can be a really well-earned, deserved, important win there, and then see what happens after that.
Dean, do you echo Belver's thoughts there? Are you feeling hopeful and optimistic going into that West Ham game?
I'm feeling really optimistic because of the Southampton performance today, because of the result, but also on the flip side because of what Paul's just mentioned, the fixtures that West Ham got coming up. So they know they've got to win this Southampton game. So that puts a lot of pressure on. And playing in front of them West Ham fans is tough, especially when it's not going well. And if it's level for a long period of time, or Southampton have possession of the ball, because of the style they're playing now, they will get frustrated. And I would say West Ham are the opposite. They don't look together. They look like a lot of individuals. There seems to be a lot of blame coming out of that camp. So I can only imagine what it's like there. That doesn't guarantee that they're going to win the game or lose the game, but optimism, yes, because if you take that spirit and that fight, you can win any game, especially when you come from behind like that. That's such a good value, such a good quality to have, because when you're 1-0 down, you're not thinking, oh, the game's lost. You can come back into it. So I fancy Southampton, yeah, and looking forward to it.
Good stuff. Well, Dean, Paul, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really nice having you as always. Well, a late penalty from Prowse rescues a point for Saints as they draw 3-3 here at St Mary's with Spurs. Now, next up is the international break, so enjoy that, whoever you may be supporting, and we'll see you soon.
Bye for now.